He was a pioneer in the publishing industry, a giant among men, one of a kind. He stood above his peers. I'm Tyrone Bowman, and this is Tyrone Bowman Tonight. This evening, profile John H. Johnson, the founder of the Johnson Publishing Company. I'll tell you about him in a moment. Just before I get to that, do you have a prophetic call in your life? Do you need a mentor in ministry? If so, then Higher Dimension School for the Prophets may be just for you. They're looking for you, so why not contact them? Higher Dimensions School for the Prophets at www.schoolfortheprophets.com. That's www.schoolfortheprophets.com. Higher Dimension School for the Prophets. The topic of discussion this evening is John H. Johnson. John Harold Johnson was born January 19, 1918, and he died August the 8th, 2005, was an American businessman and publisher. Johnson was the founder in 1942 of the Johnson Publishing Company, headquartered in Chicago, Illinois. Johnson's company, with its Ebony magazine, which debuted in 1945. I'll talk more about that later. And Jet magazine, which debuted in 1951. Both magazines were among the most influential African-American business and media in the second half of the 20th century. In 1982, Johnson became the first African-American to appear on the Forbes 400 list. In 1987, Johnson was named Black Enterprise Entrepreneur of the Year. John H. Johnson was born in Arkansas City, Arkansas. His family moved to Chicago at the time. The year was 1933, during the Chicago World's Fair, during the Great Migration of African Americans out of the South. Johnson endured much teasing and taunting at his high school for his ragged clothes and country ways, as he was encountered something he never knew existed. Middle-class blacks. Johnson later transferred to DuSable High School for his junior and senior years. His classmates at DuSable included Nat King Cole, Red Fox, and future entrepreneur William Abernathy. This only fueled his already formidable determination to make something of himself. Johnson's high school career was distinguished by the leadership qualities he demonstrated as student council president and as editor of the school newspaper and class yearbook. He attended high school during the day and studied self-improvement books at night. After he graduated with honors in 1936, he was offered a tuition scholarship to the University of Chicago, but he thought he would have to decline it because he could not figure out a way to pay for expenses other than tuition. Listen to this. I read the book entitled Succeeding Against the Odds, so I know the story very well. And if there are any gaps in the Wikipedia account of Johnson, I will fill them in. He was offered a tuition scholarship to the University of Chicago, but he thought he would have to decline it because he could not figure out a way to pay for expenses other than tuition. Because of his achievement in high school, Johnson was invited to speak at a dinner held by the Urban League. When Harry Pace, president of the Supreme Life Insurance Company, heard Johnson's speech, he was so impressed with the young man that he offered Johnson a job so that he would be able to use the scholarship. Johnson began as an office boy at Supreme Life and within 2 years had become Pace's assistant. His duties included preparing a monthly digest of newspaper articles with help from his publisher, Madame Du Bois. Johnson began to wonder if other people in the community might not enjoy the same type of service. He conceived of a publication patterned after Reader's Digest. His work at Supreme Life also gave him the opportunity to see the day-to-day operations of a business owned by an African American and fostered his dream of starting a business of his own. Now listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm about to tell you is very important. During the year 1945, banks did not loan money to black people or African Americans or Negroes, whatever they were calling them. They did not loan money to them during that time. So he had to come up with his own method, his creative method of raising finances for his venture. So what did Mr. Johnson do? And let this be a lesson to every entrepreneur out there. Do not ever surrender or give up on your dreams because a bank officer told you no. If you have the intestinal fortitude, and if you believe in what you're doing, and if you have faith in Almighty God, there's nothing good that you can't achieve in this world. Once the idea of Negro Digest occurred to him, it seemed to be like a black gold mine. Johnson stated in his autobiography, succeeding against the odds. He remained enthusiastic, even though he was discouraged on all sides from doing so. Only his mother, a woman with biblical faith and deep religious convictions, as well as a powerful belief in her son, supported his vision and listened and allowed him to use her furniture as collateral for a loan. Now this is where I insert the rest of it. He went to his mother and he talked to her and he convinced her to allow him to take this beautiful furniture that she had just bought and pawn it. So they went to a pawn shop and he pawned it for $500. That $500 initial seed turned into a venture-making opportunity at the tune of $500 million a year. That's how much the Johnson Publishing Company was making, $500 million a year. And they became the only and the largest black-owned publishing company in America. Never forget that. Don't tell yourself what you can't do. He used his loan to publish the first edition of Negro Digest in 1942. Johnson had a problem with distribution until he teamed up with Joseph Levy, a magazine distributor, who was impressed with him. Levy provided valuable marketing tips and opened the doors that allowed the new digest to reach newsstands in other urban centers. Wow. With 6 months circulation, had reached 50,000 people. This publication covered African American history, literature, arts, and cultural issues. After several decades of publication, its name was changed to Black World. Although Negro Digest achieved some success and at its height has a circulation of more than 100,000 people, it was dwarfed by Johnson. It was dwarfed by Johnson's subsequent publication, Ebony magazine, which was so popular that its initial run of 25,000 copies easily sold out. Y'all know Ebony magazine. We all had them in our homes on the coffee table, spread out. Ebony and Jet, Jet and Ebony, the center of attention whenever we came into somebody's home. The articles in Ebony, which were designed to look like those in Life or Look magazines, emphasized the achievement of successful African Americans. Photo essays about current events and articles about race relations were also included in the magazine, initially focused on the rich and famous in the African American community. Johnson expanded the reporting to include issues such as the white problem in America, African American mutiny, crimes by African Americans against African Americans, civil rights legislation, freedom rides and marches, and other aspects of segregation and discrimination. Professional historians were recruited for the magazine staff so that the contributions of African Americans to the history of the United States would be adequately documented. African American models were used in the magazine's advertisements, and a conscious effort was made to portray positive aspects of African American life and culture. Everything in the magazine was addressed to the African American consumer. Johnson maintained that Ebony's success was due to the positive image of African Americans that it offered. In 1951, Johnson launched Tan, a True Confessions type magazine. In 1951, Jet, a weekly news digest, began. Later publications included African American Stars and Ebony Jr., a children's magazine. Although all of the magazines achieved a measure of success, none was able to compete with Ebony, which in its 40th year of publication had a circulation of 2,300,000 people and was the primary reason that Johnson was considered one of the 400 richest individuals in the United States. One of Johnson's most notable issues of Jet was the September 15, 1955 issue, in which he published a picture of a Chicago youth, Emmett Till's mutilated body after it had arrived in Chicago from Mississippi. People considered Johnson's decision to publish Till's photograph his greatest moment. Michigan Congressman Charles Diggs recalled that given the emotion the image stimulated, it was probably one of the greatest media products in the last 40 or 50 years. In addition, Johnson Publishing owned Fashion Fair Cosmetics, which was created by Eunice W. Johnson, which was his wife. She created the Ebony Fashion Fair Cosmetics line, and it was one of the best-selling cosmetics in the world. And number one, ladies, check out Fashion Fair Cosmetics. You will love the product. So, Fashion Fair Cosmetics, the world's #1 makeup and skincare company for women of color and supreme beauty products, hair care for men and women, and was involved in television production and produced the Ebony Fashion Fair, the world's largest traveling fashion show, which has donated over $47 million to charity. The show visited more than 200 cities in the United States, Canada, and the Caribbean. Johnson Publishing also has a book division which employed more than 2,600 people with sales of over $388 million. Johnson purchased 3 radio stations, started a book publishing company and a television production company, and served on the board of directors of several major businesses, including the Greyhound Corporation. In 2019, the remaining assets of Johnson Publishing Company were sold as a part of a Chapter 7 bankruptcy proceeding. In another video, I'll tell you exactly what Ebony is doing today. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this a 2-part video here instead of rushing through it. Johnson Publishing Company, the beginning, the one, the only, the original. Get to know it. Get a copy of the book entitled, get a copy of the book entitled Succeeding Against the Odds. Was written by John H. Johnson himself. I've read the book. I've studied it. It's one of the most exciting stories I've ever read in my life. And what I loved about it is that every single word in the book is true. Don't ever surrender your dreams. Don't ever surrender your visions. Don't ever surrender your goals. Don't accept readily the word no, because this system is designed to deter you from succeeding. Do you really think that moguls of industry and capitalism and capitalists who are at the top of their game really want someone else coming into their field? The answer is no. If you believe in yourself, health, happiness, success, prosperity, love, joy, and money is yours. If you will do things ethically, morally, and spiritually correct, there's nothing that you can't achieve in this life. Mr. John H. Johnson had a dream. He had a vision. He didn't allow anything, anyone, or anybody to stand in his way. Never surrender, never quit.